is a very Bowen story. So there are locations, and the locations are very definite. And you may or may not imagine the locations that I had in mind, but it doesn't really matter, but they're definitely Bowen. In fact, one Bowen aspect of it is that my accompanist is a neighbour. So that's the sort of thing that happens on Bowen, where everybody does many things. That story's called Fast Falls, Eventide, which may have associations, may not. Okay, Doug, you should begin. 4-part harmony is easier than 3-part harmony. I'm not sure why, but things just fall into place. So, being a sort of contrabass, except when I yelp, I can come just in when it feels right, if there are 3 others singing. But 2 are harder to join, because I have to be number 3 on their terms. But I spend most of my time silent, just wandering by the lake, getting berries, and finding the occasional sandwich or small dog for lunch. There's this almost constant chorus of shaking bells, shrieking whistles, and out-of-tune singing, all from hikers on the lake trail. Their dogs are doing that high-pitched dog singing that people can't hear, meant to annoy other dogs, which also bugs the hell out of most other creatures. Just a few people are singing in tune. They're usually alone, and I growl a low bass line for them, though they never notice. Pairs of people sing too, cheerful songs meant to make them think of striding safely through sun-filled valleys. Badly usually, very badly often, and just sometimes it's all right. Then I give them a little growly accompaniment, but they don't notice, for like all the best accompanists, I'm very discreet, and my effect is mostly that the singers sound better than they would otherwise. Wow, they say, we were really on that time. It was an ominous-looking day. Dark clouds, little streaks of sun struggling down to the gaps between the trees, the occasional splash of horizontal rain. I was looking for a nice large log to shelter under, when I heard 3 walkers with no bells but singing together in tune hymns, Abide With Me in E-flat major, with a top voice and a middle and a bottom. There's a lot you don't know about us bears. A rare treat, 3 parts just asking for a 4th. So I hummed and growled along, sometimes doubling 1 part, sometimes filling in a gap where a 3rd or a 5th was missing, sometimes even helping the melody. We got to that point where the tune comes up and there's an A natural where you expect an A flat. That's the best part of the whole melody, and I've always liked it. So I couldn't hold myself back. I just stood up and belted it out. I think the one with the melody was going a bit flat, as if her voice didn't really believe that the note was a semitone up from what it had been a bar before. So my correction took her even more back than the sight of a bear on her rear legs, straining, really straining insistently loudly for the note. They screamed. They waved their arms in a pathetic attempt to look big. They walked slowly backwards away from me, all according to the book. I've seen it 100 times. I always shrug my shoulders and walk away, though it's hard to resist the temptation to show them how silly they look. Back they inched, getting in the other direction as definitely as they could, until they arrived at a broad route across the path. Then they just toppled over backwards, all 3 of them. That put me in a delicate position. I had been hoping to move quietly through the woods behind them, just occasionally crackling a branch so that they'd do some more nervous singing. After all, it isn't every day that I have 3 voices around me that can actually carry a tune. And I meant just to hum quietly along with them so they wouldn't get too alarmed. But here they were, writhing on the ground and sort of twittering, like ducks that have landed on ice, forgetting their parts. I was not going to get any harmony out of this. So I ambled over and gave 3 pitches to get them fixed on where they should be. A couple of octaves down from them, but they should have been able to figure it out. They began to wail and shriek and shout. But they were singers, and I was giving them the pitches, so there was a pattern to it. Still in E-flat, though E-flat minor now, or some jazzy variation.